Hi, good afternoon. So today I want to talk about the SailPoint application onboarding process and how VerityBeyond can be used to help manage the whole process of what we call application onboarding. So in one of my previous demos, we talked a lot more about SailPoint, roles-based access, what it means, how it can be used, the benefits of cybersecurity, with this whole talk of resilience, application management, resilience of systems, access to systems, roles. Very hot topic right now. So SailPoint drives the role creation process, the birthright process, joiner, mover, leaver. And again, I shared, we've talked about that in the previous demo. So today I want to talk about how do we get that data into the system. So usually with products like SailPoint, you would have a team that works with the application owners in a company to onboard the applications into the system. So basically, it starts out with the developers or the cybersecurity or roles team capturing the application information and defining it properly, and then usually we use automation or we use the product itself to onboard the application. So we come up with an SOP just to simplify understanding this process because I find that a lot of users struggle to understand what's the application onboarding process before we can get to a point where we want to start to provide services like certifications or provisioning or roles-based access. How do we get that data into the system? And that's where you talk about application onboarding. So we capture things like what's the name of the application, what environments are going to be used. Usually for quality control, you have a development environment, maybe a test environment, staging, production, or pre-prod. Some other organizations will have like a performance environment where they do performance testing. Another organization may have like a systems integration environment whereby they can bring in all the different environments together. Others may even take it a step further and have like a disaster recovery environment for the application or applications so that if things go down and we have to do a failover to a backup environment, we can stand it up. So that's what we talk about when we spell out the environments. Okay, so back to the demonstration. The key items that we're going to capture are the name of the application. So I will just back up here. And let's say we want to call the application, Salesforce Cloud application, right? Let's assume we're trying to connect a test instance or UAT instance of Salesforce for a test or demo user, right? So that's what we want to call the application. And then the environment's required, so we can just spell out dev, test, staging, maybe UAT, prod, and prod disaster recovery, okay? So, and as you capture all this information, the correlation logic, in SailPoint, when you talk about things like correlation, you're trying to associate the account that's coming in on the application back to the authoritative source. So in a good IAM model, you would mark each of the accounts with some kind of unique identifier, usually an employee number. That could be an HR attribute coming from the HR application. It could be like a Workday or SAP or Oracle HCM. And then some other places will use a different system for the contractors and part-time associates. I think it's better to put all the users inside a single authoritative HR system, and then you use that system to delineate between a contractor and maybe a full-timer, just to keep things simple. So this tells us what the correlation logic should be, and then the connectivity details. How will SailPoint connect to the system? The host name, the URLs, the credentials, and things of that sort. And then who's going to be the application owner? So you specify the employee ID, and then their contact information if they have any information that they need to give us in case we have to contact them. And then now that we're moving to like cloud-based applications, what you find is that a lot of companies are using single sign-on applications like Ping Identity, ForgeRock, Azure, SAML, several providers, Okta, several providers in this space. And basically they provide authentication federation so that your identities and your identity provider can authenticate into your application. So this tells us if there's any SAML certificates that are associated with this application to grant the users access to that application, and or if there are roles, spelling out all those requirements in this key step. And then last but not the least, the highest level of maturity is when you're defining roles. So roles tells you, let's grant people access based on their job code or their job function or their, cost center. And then usually you'll spell out maybe an accountant should get access to the accounting applications, or maybe the engineer should get access to the engineering applications, or perhaps the HR people should get access to the HR applications. And then you want to make sure that you give people only what they need. So by the time you're done with this process, a tool like this will be used to guide the discussion process, and then you would standardize on capturing all this data. And once you have it all, you would switch gears to SailPoint. And again, this is a test instance of SailPoint that I use for my own dev test training and learning and experimenting. So the name of the application, we can just copy it from the tool. Salesforce, sales, small typo there, cloud application. And you put all that data in here. The owner will be select an admin. So SailPoint supports multiple connectors out of the box. I think this is one of the key selling points of their product, is that without having to do any customization, you can connect to a whole range of application sources. In this case, we want to find Salesforce, so I'll select Salesforce, and then the system will automatically configure itself, and then it will ask you for the inputs to drive that connectivity. So here we would figure out the connectivity information that we want for the application onboarding. Again, back to the details. In this step, we can establish the connectivity details. So usually before you have the kickoff call with this application team, you'd have at least gone through the application onboarding and gathered the information like what's the URL, the authentication type, username, password, etc. And then you can just speed up the process of at least having the conversation. And note that you could have all this information per environment, right? You could have one connectivity for dev. You could have another one for UAT. You could have another one for quality assurance and pre-prod. And then once you're done configuring it, then you can now, SailPoint can now establish a connection from your own instance to their instance, and then it will bring in all the account data and begin the process of bringing in all that data into your SailPoint instance, so that you can provide certification services, and they can also provide provisioning services. And then for disconnected apps, you can also onboard and use the ServiceNow for service desk integration to create tickets for which perhaps we don't have an automatic connector. So this is a summary of how VerityBeyond can be used to simplify the process of application onboarding in the context of cybersecurity for roles-based access control, to drive a holistic approach, so that as you're going through this daunting process, you have a tool to capture the necessary information, and then you have a process for onboarding the application, a process for standing it up, a process for testing, a process for commissioning your services, a process for decommissioning your services. All of the above can be captured using processes. So this is a nice way, I think, VerityBeyond can support SailPoint and SailPoint implementations. So thank you so much. There's a lot more to this than what I can summarize here, but I just wanted to drive the connection between when we talk about business process management, how does that support an application ownership or an application maintenance program. And again, I'm just using SailPoint as an example, but many enterprise apps have their own nuances. They have their own processes internal, and they need to standardize the key processes for managing that application. And that's where I think VerityBeyond can be used to enhance the quality, the resiliency, and the stability of your environment. All right, I will end there. Thank you so much, and you have a blessed and wonderful day. Cheers. Bye.